Okay, I am going to call the meeting to order at 7:15. Roll call, everybody is here. Attest to publication.
Saw it.
Thank you, Joni. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Joni, would you please read the district mission, vision, values, and the Board of Education collective commitment?
Bangor School District mission, vision, and value statements. Mission, Bangor Pride, a small school building big futures. Vision, an innovative small school creating excellence through personalized learning and relationships for all. Values, student-centered, small class sizes, continuous improvement, professionalism, opportunities for all, safety, foster community, sustainability. Our Board of Education collective commitments. As a member of the Bangor School Board, I will be an active listener who is open-minded, respectful, and inquisitive. Together, with one collective voice, we are committed to forward-thinking while strategically prioritizing for our students, staff, and community now and into the future.
Thank you very much, Joni. Public comment? Approval of the minutes from March 16th, regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Tina to approve the regular meeting, March 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. March 16th, closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Joni to approve the March 16th, closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Student report. Welcome. You can start whenever you're ready.
The elementary's word of the month is empathy. The students will have an assembly about their word and talk about what it means and how to show empathy. National Honor Society hosted a food drive. We had a great turnout of students bringing items in, and seniors ended up winning the challenge by a long shot against freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. All the food was delivered to the elementary school food pantry.
Band and choir both got the opportunity to take a trip to New Orleans. 30 students ended up going along on the trip. They ended up doing a haunted ghost tour, some museums, a swamp tour, and had a clinic where they worked with college music teachers. The 7th graders went to Poinet for 3 days, and grades 6 through 10 finished state testing. Student Council is hosting Dude Be Nice Week in the first week of May. Dude Be Nice Week is a week to inspire people to treat themselves and others better. We will promote positivity and kindness through various means that are still in the works.
Prom was well attended. The punch was great. Matthew Osterley and Madeline England crowned Clayton Liga and Nora Tucker for the 2022 King and Queen. Trevor Horseman shot a perfect 50 for the trap team 2 weeks ago. Baseball, softball, and track are all trying to get into the full swing of their seasons, but with the challenging weather, they haven't gotten to a very good start. Softball's had to cancel 6 games and finally got to play their second game last night. The softball game won 11-2 over Wanawalk Center, and the baseball team won 22-1. The boys, girls, and track both competed at Kickapoo and both took second place, and the seniors have 25 days left of school.
Thank you. Countdown. Thank you very much I know your schedules are busy and we appreciate you coming. Thank you. Okay, next we have the faculty study update, and this is an informational item. Kevin? Come on down.
Good evening, and apparently that'll be up on the screen, so no one needs to see me on the camera. So I'm just going to stand back here tonight. It's a pleasure to be back with the board in advance of seeing you in a couple of weeks. And just wanted to come back and give you a brief update on where we are with comprehensive facility planning. If you can jump to the next slide for me, thank you very much. So this is just a visual to show you as we've been working our way through essentially the phases, and this is essentially a roadmap from left to right. Started out with a lot of listening, and I'll talk in a moment about some of the detail around that. Quite a bit of assessment. I'll spend a little more time on that in a minute. And we're really now just beginning the solving. And technical, financial, of course, but you see what I've got highlighted there, the district and board consultation. The next few weeks, a very important part of this whole process is going to be spending time with the district administration, B&G committee, and then the board. If you can jump to the next slide. So this is a master schedule that we developed along with your administrative team, and I just wanted to call out a few things as we look back a little bit and then look ahead to the next few weeks. So if you look at the top, that first line item is really January through April of this year. A few things I'll call out. I look back just out of curiosity. We've had over 15 meetings and site visits here, believe it or not, since we met with initially with the B&G committee and the board back in December. We've done a district-wide staff survey, which we'll be discussing with you when we come back and see you in a couple weeks. Some very interesting feedback there that's been very helpful. We've gotten into some fairly high degree of concept development, but a lot of concepts to talk about potential solutions and options that we'll be bringing to you to look at as well. And then we've also gotten into some of the financial tool development as well, which is a valuable tool to help you as you're evaluating potential options, looking at your long-term facility planning. As you look at the calendar then, working way down, here we are at April 20th at the board meeting tonight. April 27th, so a week from now, we'll be back to meet with the admin team and the B&G committee. And that'll be our opportunity to spend a few hours with them going through the draft comprehensive facility assessment report, and that'll be in presentation form, and it'll be a very collaborative meeting, high level of detail, but it'll be an opportunity for those folks to ask a lot of questions, give a lot of feedback, and help us get prepared for coming back to meet with you as a full board at that work session on May 2nd. And I'll talk just in a moment about the topics we're going to cover that particular evening. I'm not going to go through in a lot of detail with the rest of that calendar because we'll spend some time on May 2nd on that. But I do just want to point out that the calendar goes through essentially late August, and it covers everything from potential staff engagement to community engagement to some of the discussion and potential action at future board meetings. So we really want to give you guys a roadmap potentially that you could follow going forward. Any questions so far? All right, and then final slide. All right, so when we're back in a couple of weeks for that work session, these are essentially at a high level the things that we'll be focusing on with you. We'll certainly go and give you an overview of the planning process. In other words, how do we get to where we are at this point? And that'll include from the perspective of Nexus, but also from the district's perspective. We'll get into a high degree of detail on the condition of your facilities and what came out of the assessment. We'll also look at what we call educational adequacy, which is essentially the assessment of your classrooms, how you're delivering education, your capacity, things like that. We'll talk about financial tools, and that's a very, in my opinion, pretty interesting because it gets into where you can start to realize potential operational savings. It looks at how you can potentially fund within your annual operating budget some of the priorities within your plan, things like that. And then we'll get into some of those concepts I mentioned earlier. That's what the options review is. So you can begin to, certainly not make any decisions, but begin to review those, ask questions, and start to essentially think about how that might prioritize for the district looking forward in the future. Then what we do like to do with you is just discuss potentially some paths, what next steps could be, and using that timeline as a tool to do that. And then we leave quite a bit of time for input from you, and then your ability to ask as many questions as you might have, because we really want to walk away from that evening having a lot of feedback, so we can essentially take the feedback we have, finalize that comprehensive assessment. It really gets then put into a written format that's probably going to be a couple hundred pages, if not a little bit more of high-level detail. That'll get delivered, I think, if I'm looking at the calendar here, on the May 18th board meeting to you. So that'll be that deliverable that night. So, anyways, I just wanted to come tonight and kind of tell you a lot's been accomplished, but the next few weeks are pretty important in the process, and a piece where the B&G committee and the board get pretty involved. So, any questions from anybody on the board? All right. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, moving on to the board president's report, correspondence. Do we have any? Okay, thank you. Board election results. First of all, I want to thank all of the people who ran for re-election and the opponents as well. I appreciate everyone for wanting to be part of the Bangor School District and our students, so I thank you for your effort. And I thank all of the people who ran. Our incumbents did get reelected, Shelley Piskey and Joni Wilcox, so congratulations. So next, CISA 4 Director Search Update. I am been involved with the CISA 4. Our current administrator, Keel Arneson, is retiring as of June 30th. We have interviewed 6 people. We had second interviews on April 13th, and it has been okay that I could share this. We are going to offer the position to Paul Fisher. Paul is currently a district administrator in Alma Center, Humbird, Maryland. We were very pleased with his interview process, and he has some great vision for CISA 4 and our 26 schools. So we are very excited about Paul joining our team there. If anyone has any questions, just please let me know. The next item is the CISA 4 delegate for the annual meeting. The annual meeting is the first Wednesday in June, and I need a motion, or if anyone else wants to attend and be part of the delegate. What happens at the delegate meeting is, so CISA 4 is 26 schools, and there's a representative from each school. And we have a little education session, and then we present the budget, have some camaraderie amongst the districts. I have went before because I do represent Bangor on the CISA Board of Control, and I am happy to go again, to attend that again if you so wish. But we do need a motion to approve that.
Just out of curiosity, who's running that meeting that night?
Pardon?
Who's supposed to run that meeting that night?
Well, the president's going to be gone and the vice president did get reelected, and I'm the next one in line because I'm the treasurer. So I've been asked to run the meeting, but I said first my board has to okay me to come.
I guess then I'll make a motion that you represent the district, be the district representative at the CISA 4 annual meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve myself, Julie Myers, as the district representative for the CISA 4 annual meeting on June 1st. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll abstain, Jean, sorry. And next, board members to hand out diplomas at graduation. I know Lori Horseman might be interested in doing that, as she has 2 sons graduating. Is that true, Lori? Okay. Anyone else interested?
I'd be interested in doing that.
Okay. All right, Jack, thank you. So someone can make a motion for Lori and Jack.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley, to appoint Lori Horseman and Jack Liga as the board's representatives to hand out diplomas at graduation on May 29th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, ladies. Committee reports. Policy. Joni?
Seems like a long time ago. I guess it was March 23rd. We met to finalize the review of the the policies that we were behind on. We, according to these notes, have now completed 2 years worth of updates in 1 year, which it seems like. Hopefully you've reviewed those that we also reviewed. There's only one new policy, and that actually,
Yeah, it was an existing policy for teachers and support staff in different categories, but it didn't exist for administration. So we're just adding it to the administration section as well.
but outside of those, we pretty much followed recommendations, did make a few personalizations to some of the policies, but otherwise it's basically just following legal guidance.
Any questions for Joni and the committee?
I'll just note that Tina had made a very good suggestion that we will bring up when we approve those as a potential, just one last change to those and any others that we have discussion about. So
Thank you. Building and grounds?
So I'll just jump in and following up on what Kevin had shared there, we are scheduled for next week on the 27th at 5:30 p.m. To discuss the findings of the facility study. And this is just going to be I told Kevin this team, and you guys proved me right when we hired Nexus. They're going to interrogate and they're going to get after this. And I'm looking forward to 3 hours of really digging into that and having your perspectives on that. So we have that planned. We'll start at 5:30. We'll have some food here at 5 if you want to arrive a little bit early. But just wanted to make you aware of that. So.
And that's Building and Grounds Committee,
Building and
correct?
Grounds
Okay,
Committee,
Thank
yep.
you. Just wanted to clarify. Any questions for Building and Grounds? Okay, thank you. District financials.
Yeah, Angie and I had no questions emailed to us. So we usually get a few and can clarify a couple things, but they're all pretty self-explanatory throughout those. So I'd look for approval of the district financials. This does include the quarterly activity accounts summary that we put in policy earlier this year that we would report on that quarterly.
I'll make a motion to approve the financials as presented, including Fund 21 checks, general account checks, and April 22nd final report in quarterly activities accounts.
I'll second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lisa to approve the financial documents as listed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. District reports.
So we're going to talk just briefly about after-school programming tonight. This has been something that we talked about at the beginning of the year. We weren't able to offer any this year. I'm going to start by just letting Mike talk a little bit about that because it does primarily affect the elementary school, and we'll just share a little bit more information that we've been gathering.
Yeah, it's, I think the ongoing need for that after-school care is it's a small number of families, but it's still a small number of families, right? So just brainstorming with how we can do that. Clearly the Y is not interested. We've been down that road. You guys know that. So really looking at how we as a district can house that in elementary school. David and I did visit today with the Boys and Girls Club in West Salem, talk about options there. Just really it's in the very initial conversations of that. It's a matter of busing. There's fees, there's expenses by the district, and quite honestly more than what I thought But those are very rough numbers right now, and I think there's a lot of ongoing dialogue. Probably one of the most interesting pieces that came out of that conversation was the partnership, possibly working with the Boys and Girls Club and the Bangor School District in Bangor, not in West Salem, which I think David and I both agree that having our families here as opposed to traveling to West Salem is a benefit. But there's challenges to both scenarios. Expenses to every situation, especially if we're going to hire our own employee and then staff that situation and manage that, it's just who and how does that look? Those are all part of the conversations that we're having right now. I think we were talking today about getting in touch with our community, asking our parents to come in, have a seat right here, talk with us about needs, about desires of what they would want from a program as well, and then take some of that information, either follow through a little bit more with a short-term or a long-term agreement with the Boys and Girls Club, and or establish our own program right here and with our own community members and go that route. So that includes maybe inviting the current daycare providers within our community, what needs they're seeing, what kind of numbers they're being asked to field, and all that kind of stuff. So probably in May, David and I will sit down with the community members, put out an invite, have a night where we get together and have some dialogue about what the need really is. Again, the hard part of this is it's a need for sure, but overall, what my experience is a fairly small number of families, but we'll find out more and share more as we go. Any questions for me just in general?
Yeah, I would just add on a little bit. I did attend last Thursday a Competitive Wisconsin's Early Care and Education Summit in La Crosse, and what we are experiencing here with childcare being sparse or difficult to come by is a nationwide issue. La Crosse is working through it. I learned about some grants, at that point in time that are available to to help with that process. Some different funding models that are used in some districts. But I think ultimately, as Mike talked about, for us, the need to sit down with people from our community. So we'll put out a general invite. We'll specifically try to invite some people that we know are engaged in daycare. I'm sure we should, use the PTO and communicate through them as well. But just invite folks in to talk about this and kind of assess the level of need and talk about what those options could be for the future. So the conversation with the Boys and Girls Club today was a positive one, and they are working really hard in La Crosse County, across La Crosse County, and we kind of mentioned that maybe we're the last area of La Crosse County that you need to get to, and there was some excitement about thinking about making that the Boys and Girls Club of La Crosse County and being representing in all districts. So there's a lot to go along with that. It's not an overnight fix, but it was exciting as we sat there and had the conversation and kind of dream about what the future could be and that opportunity it could provide for our Bangor families. So I'll keep you posted, but I wanted to share with you in open session and to share with the board that we do intend to have that listening session and just kind of hear from the community and maybe get some ideas and continue to get that ball rolling.
Any questions for David or Mike? Okay, thank you. Fund 80 basic overview information.
Yeah, and I can't tell you these aren't completely disconnected. So, part of the funding conversation when you talk about providing, in essence, a community service for your community by providing or helping facilitate a child care situation within the schools. Multiple school districts around the state and in our area are using a tool called Fund 80. I shared the link on the site if you want to do a little bit more digging on it. I'm not presenting that. I'm not proposing that. I just wanted to bring that forward as an option. In essence, Fund 80 is meant to fund community-based activities. When you use Fund 80, it is anyone in the community has access to it. Anybody within the tax base would have access to that. It's often used in districts for childcare programs, sometimes for community centers, pools, things that we don't have. I've seen it used for things like strings programs, Odyssey of the Mind programs that we do have, but because that would be a community-based thing, not necessarily a completely school-based thing, it could be used to enhance what we already have as a great program there, and have some fourth graders heading to nationals or world championships coming up here. But there's lots of opportunities within Fund 80. I think it's important to recognize with Fund 80, it's not a new thing. It's been around for many years. It's not free money. It's not like this special fund that you can get more money for. It is taxpayer money that the board would levy outside of the revenue limit. So the advantage is we know that the state funding only comes in a little bit at a time. It's based on your enrollment and all of those types of things. This gives a district an ability to do something to serve their entire community, but it is outside that revenue limit, but it does have a financial impact for our community that it serves. So just being real kind of open with what that means. This is a community that is very, our school district is the heart of this community in many ways. And as we continue to be that and we continue to move forward in a growing community, this may be a conversation that comes back up. It came up in these conversations. It may come up in other conversations. So I wanted to at least share with the board what that looked like. If you want to do a little reading on it, like I said, that link is there. If you got questions, let me know. And if we ever start talking about it again, you'll know what we're talking about. So, any questions for me? All right, I'm going to go right on to the budget overview. So, obviously, we met in closed session and kind of went through some specifics because we're talking about the part of our budget that's going towards people. So that was a big part of our closed session discussion. But I just want to have a general budget picture conversation for our whole community that's tuning in or anybody that's watching, just to kind of look at the priorities for the district. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Really, when we talk about budgeting, it starts with those the commitments and the direction that this board has helped to set to guide the district moving forward with our mission, vision, and values. And also, you can go to the next one there, John, the collective commitments of the district. This forward thinking while strategically prioritizing for our students, staff, and community now and into the future, thinking about that big picture into the future. I just want to acknowledge, there are multiple things to acknowledge here, but this district has an excellent track record that's long before me and long before Dave Lane, long before, all of you who are on the board. We've been a very conservative budgeting district, and it's kept the district in a good place. The community support for the school district demonstrates a trust in the district and a continued quality stewardship of the district resources. The planning that you saw in closed session with me tonight, the planning in this presentation is very much, probably looks different than what you're used to in the past, but I just want to share with this, it's built on the same collective values, the conservative estimates that you guys are used to, and what our community depends on us for in that stewardship of the district's money. You can go to the next slide. So obviously our budget this year and everyone's budget has been affected by that inflation thing that's going on. CPI has gone up 4.7 for our staff, so we're looking at how to get that to our staff. Insurance rates, those initial numbers, as we've shared a little bit, came in at 19%. Obviously fuel prices and anything else and everything else under the sun has gone up. One of the interesting things about that is our revenues may go up if we maintain our enrollment, may go up by about 1%. 1% of our budget's about $100,000. That 1% would not provide enough money to give a 4% increase to just our teachers if we figured that base salary at everybody at $36,000. So it's just not a very big number. So we have to do some things within that budget to make that all work. The same way the costs continue to grow for the district, your personal costs will continue to grow for the staff as well. I will say this, the model for funding schools is broken. I mean, that math just doesn't work. There's no secret pots of money when we're looking at the budget that we can all of a sudden just tighten up enough to make the big difference that we need without some give and take in the planning. You can head to that next one. I shared this with the board as well. This when we're budgeting, it's finding that balance, and we need to absolutely remember that financial responsibility and sustainability of the district or for the district. At the same time, managing the costs and taking care of our people that make our organization work. We are a people-heavy industry, and taking care of the people that educate our kids and making sure that their income is going up with that cost of living is an important part to make sure that we keep quality educators in front of our kids. With that, there's a balance, because if we get too heavy on either one of those sides, it can be a detriment to the district. So finding that balance that makes the most sense for our district helps keep the district moving forward in the positive directions that it is. So again, just acknowledging and thanking the community for the outstanding support. We are currently operating in year 3 of an operational referendum that's providing an additional $9,000 of taxpayer support to our school district. So we've seen in other school districts when that doesn't get supported, how quickly things become very, very difficult for a district. So the fact that this district has for multiple years continued to support that is incredibly important. The forward thinking of this board and the previous administration to get the next 3 years approved before they brought the new guy in that you weren't sure what you were getting is great. So thank you to all of you for thinking about that. We do have the next 3 years of that $900,000 approved already, and we'll continue to use that well moving forward. In addition to that, we are currently operating on year 14 of a 20-year capital improvement plan in our district. And that capital improvement debt went towards the elementary remodel that we are still enjoying. The board actions, this board's actions, including refinancing and prepayment of principal, will allow the debt to be paid off in about 17 years versus that 20-year debt. That savings in interest is about a $50,000 to $80,000 savings in interest. So again, because of the stewardship of this board, because of the planning of the district, we're gaining ground on that and saving our taxpayers money that's not going to interest. It actually goes to the facilities and the operations of our district. So incredibly important to recognize we are lucky as a community to continue to have that support, lucky as a school district to continue to have that support, and we don't want to take that for granted. The next part of that, just kind of looking at that over million, roughly, overview of roughly a $10 million budget. So you see the salary and benefits at about 61% of that. That's low in comparison to some larger districts. And when we look at that, some of our contracted services, like our contracted OT, PT, those types of things are in that programming. So if those were district staff, that would increase that a little bit. But obviously we can't afford to have a full-time OT for the amount that we need, so we contract those services. I think it does just affect that balance a little bit. So share that just as a kind of reminder when we're looking at the big picture, the staffing and the insurance and the benefits that we're looking at and talking about some of those approvals tonight is a big portion of that $10 million budget. So as I've shared, in closed session, just kind of looking at our budget outlook for next year, so much we don't know right now at this time of year for what the budget will be for next year. Some of it we won't know until November, the actual numbers of what the numbers are coming in. But what we know is based on our current revenue worksheet that if we were to lose 15 FTE, not necessarily students, but 15 FTE from last year, we would still see, because of the 3-year average, about a $60,000, $58,000 increase in our revenue coming into the district. If we maintain enrollment, which we believe we will, it's about that 108,000. And if we were to grow by 15 FTE, that could very well be, an increase of $160,000. So that number changes, we're guessing, and that conservative estimates, as you guys have seen tonight, we're estimating everything off that 60,000 right now because we think that's the safest. As you look at the building in our communities, there's going to be more residents, there's going to be more people moving around in housing. The housing that does go for sale is gone very quickly. I think we're going to see that number continue to grow. What's happened in neighboring districts, we've already seen a little uptick in open enrollments. All of those things help as well. So that's kind of that picture. The estimated increases in costs for 2020, 22, 23, if we looked at everything, but, we've looking at those main big areas, when we first started looking at those numbers, we were exceeding $400,000 in costs. So we've had to try to get that down. Through planning and prioritizing, making needed changes, we've reduced that number to below 300,000. So again, projecting 60,000 coming in, and we're just under 300,000 for what we're planning to increase for next year. So we have to figure out how to make that happen. So we consider a lot of costs there. I don't have to read all those to you, but it's a big picture when we look at staffing, or when we look at the budget for the district, and multiple things need to be looked at. There's lots of simple ways to save $100 or a couple $100 here and there. When what we're talking about are big dollar items and big line items, and that's where we spend the biggest part of our time, Angie and I. Rick and Mike do a great job of managing the little dollars in their building budgets and those types of things, making sure that we're using those effectively. But we're definitely looking at high dollar items when we're looking at this overall budget. Kevin was here. We've talked about this a little bit. Can't stress the importance enough of having that facility assessment. So when we are completed with this process, whether we do some projects or not, we will have a good idea of what needs to be addressed within the next 0 to 5 years, the next 5 to 10 years, and the next 10 to 20 years. When you look at right now estimates to replace a roof on this building at almost $2 million, we have to have a plan and know when that's coming up and how we're going to address that. So having that facility study is incredibly important. With the debt falling off at that year 17, or as we approach that time, that's also that opportunity that you've seen in that timeline that we could, if the board decides to do so, move forward with a capital referendum at that point in time. That's looking big picture, long term. Obviously, lots that would have to happen, but that's that long term planning that we need to be thinking about as a board. So I guess, in general, when I look at budget, just the budget overview and how we plan, conservative budgeting practices from the past are still very much in practice. So we are still planning very similarly to what we've done before that has been very effective for the district. The district has positioned itself well for the future and will continue that wise stewardship for our community resources. Many of the numbers in the financial planning for the next school year are simply estimates at this time, and they will change. They're subject to change. They will change. Our planning continues to focus on conservative estimates that will hopefully result in many good news reports as we go to the board. So our enrollment went up and we get more than we expected here and those types of things. I'd like to tell lots of those stories throughout the year. And that's what we've kind of set ourselves up for. The staffing proposal that's on the agenda tonight, the insurance plans proposed tonight all fit in to that balanced budget like we talked about. So that chunk that we talked about this evening, that we have looked very deeply at the entire budget and narrowed in on that 3% that we talked about tonight and how we can make some changes within that area to make the proposals that I'm bringing forward tonight in the action items possible. So that's kind of just an overview of that. All comes back to that focus of our district that you have set as a board for the district, and will help continue to move us forward as a district. Any questions or anything just on just kind of how I got to the budget process and where we are moving forward tonight? All right, then I'll go right to the action items. So I'm going to bring you the second proposal that we talked about tonight in closed session. So staffing proposal 2. This is the administrative recommendation for staffing. So we need to know who we're staffing where, what programs we're offering, what programs we're not, so that we know how many employees we have and how that affects raises and all of those types of things. So the staffing plan that I'm looking for approval on tonight is incredibly important. So I'm going to go through just kind of that overview of the total budget, explain the proposed changes, and then show the number of total district employees, explain the financial impact of the proposed staffing plan, and then we'll provide that administrative recommendation. You saw this on the last slide, but again, worth coming back to, we're in that 45% area here primarily. So with this, this elementary staffing changes. We've had 2 retirements at the elementary school. My proposal tonight would be to not fill one of those positions at this time, and that would result in only 2 sections at first grade next year. Those currently would look like 18 and 18 in those sections. As we had bounced some things back and forth, this does leave kindergarten intact with 3 sections, although they are a little lower than we feel comfortable with right now at like 13, 13, and 12. But we feel like that would be the recommendation of the district moving forward, to continue to have those 3 sections at those lower numbers. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like on the next slide. Art would stay full-time at the elementary school. That has been an incredibly important thing, and that is not just affecting the elementary. It was part-time position at the elementary, but then that was supplemented by our middle school, high school teacher going to the elementary in the past, and that by creating that full-time and leaving that full-time teacher at the elementary, we get to increase our offerings and decrease our class sizes in those electives here at the middle school and high school. So that's a positive for the whole district there. Overall, para support for the district is being reduced by 0.5 from the current staffing plan. You can go to the next slide. This last month we did talk about the 4K, and there were some questions about the financial impact of that we kind of got covered tonight. That is included in this staffing plan, the financial impact of that within this staffing plan, shifting some existing staff. The extra half of teacher to 4K kind of comes from that math intervention position right now. And we're shifting that para from special ed to the 4K classroom all day. The math and reading intervention position, we do feel that math intervention is important moving forward for the district. With what Mike will be presenting later on, just kind of sharing the information on our move towards it being a title-wide or a school-wide title school, we feel it would be important to add a reading certificate to that interventionist so that we have 3 teachers that could do reading intervention and 3 teachers that could do math. There's no certification requirement to do math intervention. It just increases our flexibility greatly to add that position. With that, in this proposal, we are not going to hire that position immediately. We would be holding this position until we see at least those 45 students in kindergarten for next year. So part of that, we had the conversation, or we've had the conversation back and forth on, do we keep 2 really pretty large sections of kindergarten and wait and see if we get enough kids and hire this interventionist, or do we flip? And I think it makes more sense to hire the reading interventionist later and know that we can begin to plan for the kindergarten sections moving forward. If they don't grow, we won't hire that reading and math interventionist. So we're kind of putting our making sure that the numbers support the hires that we have. Okay. So current staffing at the middle school, high school level would stay as is. Couple of notes with that. Again, the art remains full-time here, and that allows us to continue to offer those wider range of offerings and help with those elective courses here at the middle school and high school. We have this currently posted with 8 applicants, and with approval tonight, Rick will start that process of screening those, and I believe he's actually started screening them and has a short list of who he's going to bring in. So we're excited about 8 applicants and hoping we can land a great one there. FCE is back. So last year, when we talked about last year's budget and the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget, we did not have family and consumer first semester. So the staffing plan is planning for family and consumer all year this year. At the district level, the speech and language continues to be a question for us. We do not have a full-time speech and language pathologist. We absolutely need one. So we are continuing to budget for that full-time position in hopes that we can get one this spring, this summer, continue to have it posted. We continue to beat the bushes, but this is a tough position to fill, and we're not alone in this place in this state. But we will continue to plan for that in our staffing plan. And as you moved last month, this does include the creation of that 0.5 Bangor's Family Connection Coordinator position, which we have a couple of applicants for right now, and looking forward to conducting some interviews in the next week or so on that. So with that particular line, as I shared last time, that's a shift in staffing or in finances from the CISA contract last year to the our district staffing budget. Okay. So as you can see, the summary here, going from 101 people. This is not FTEs on this sheet. This is the number of people in our buildings and in the district staff, from 101 in the 2021-2022 school year to the 100 in the 22-23 school year. And you can see that breakdown of teacher support staff, administration, and confidential staff. Okay. The financial impacts of the proposed staffing changes. So this is, we've looked at a number of different ways. Obviously, there's some questions in the positions we haven't hired yet, and will continue to be. We want to hire the best candidates that we can, but we'd also like to hire somebody that's not coming in very high on our scales too. So that's that balance. We will plan for that as best we can. The staffing as presented will result in about $100,000 in overall savings for the 21-22 school year. Approximately $70,000 of the staffing plan proposed will be using the ESSER 3 funds, as we've talked about in the past. We'll use $70,000 a year for the next 3 years. That will be dedicated towards the EBIS, or the evidence-based interventions that will be used over those 3 years to get our 20% of that ESSER money used for those purposes. That gives us a lot of flexibility then with the remaining dollars. That flexibility will be tied a lot to, future needs, both staffing wise and what we find out with our facility studies and programming studies, those types of things. The other thing there was the $40,000 change that we had already discussed. So the administrative recommendation is that the board approve this staffing proposal as presented. We would anticipate, like I said, $170,000 or approximately $170,000 in savings from our current staffing with this plan. And this will allow us to offer contracts to our employees that we need to get out here soon. And it will allow us to go ahead and fill those positions, with the exception of the reading and math interventionists that we'll wait and watch that enrollment on. So I would say that, that's the contract piece. There may very well be, as we hire positions, some shifting. So if right now we've got, a 3rd grade and a 4th grade position that are open, we've got to move some people around. It might not be those positions that are posted, and we'll keep you posted. I'll keep you in the loop on what we actually post. All right. Questions on the staffing plan? Lots of thinking.
So if you post for a position at elementary school, your numbers don't come up, then what happens to that person?
So we will not post for that reading and math intervention until our numbers do come up.
Okay.
So kindergarten will stay.
But kindergarten will stay as is with 3 sections.
So your added one would be just for that math and reading.
Correct.
So you're going to keep as is right now
Yes.
and see what happens.
Yep. We believe if the enrollment continues to go, and obviously that one class is an indicator because kids don't just come to one grade level. If we pick up that many in that grade level, we believe we'll have picked up enough across the district that number at the beginning that we looked at of that, 60,000 continues to grow, and we can start to figure out how to get there.
So do we have a 4K number? I mean, is a solid number?
39.
So we have a 19 and 18, is that what you're saying, for the 2 4K classes? And what are the chances of that going any higher?
Got 2 more today.
To get to that 19 and 18.
To get to 19 and 18? Okay.
And if you remember when we talked about that 4K, that 10-to-1 ratio is what we're going to target. If we get, to 21, we probably handle it. We start to get higher than that, then we start to talk about just maybe a part-time para to come in specific parts of the day. So we're not necessarily adding another.
So the 10 to 1 is with
FTE.
your paras.
Yep. 10 to 1 is with the paras. So we've got some flexibility there, and any increases that we do there, are going to be backed by the current numbers in place. Yep.
So the
Thank you.
39 includes the 2 you got today? questions.
If there are no other questions, then I'd look for a motion to approve the staffing plan as presented.
Do you have any questions?
I will make a motion to approve the staffing plan as it was presented.
I'll second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the district staffing plan as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So again, going back to our conversations, looking at insurance changes for next year. You can see there in the public comment or content, I've just left you the basic information there. We did have a 19% increase come in initially at an increase of almost $180,000 to maintain basically the same level of benefit for our staff for next year. We did complete an RFP process with multiple vendors declining to work with us. Our loss ratio is not super, and we have basically spent all of what they've brought in premiums and beyond that. So insurance companies are a little hesitant to work with us. So you guys know how this works very well. So that number goes up. Other plans, other companies bidding as high as a 42% increase to match what we currently have. So that's kind of the range that we're looking at. The only option we are left with to make that affordable for the district and try to keep it affordable for staffing is to change our plan with WCA. So there are three options that we've looked at that are all within about the same price range. They're from $102,000 to $109,000. And what I'm looking for tonight, and I'll go through each of those, is approval to do any of the three, so that then I can have a conversation with staff about those changes, talk about the advantages and disadvantages, get some feedback from them, get some input from them, have them understand what the plans are before we just choose it. So I'm looking for approval to any of the three plans. One of the plan would be to simply keep the same leverage or keep the same coverage, but increase the premium contribution for staff from 15% of the premium to 19% of the premium to keep the cost in check for the district. It doesn't change the plan at all. It just, we pay more for it. So that would be one option. Changing the plan design so that we would only use one insurance network. In this case, it would go from Alliance and PCS, I believe it's called. So basically Gunderson and Mayo to just the Alliance network, which would be the Gunderson network. We could save the appropriate amount of money, keep everything else the same. Staff that wanted to continue the choice could play a premium differential to continue to have the higher plan that would give them the choice between the two providers. It's not as recommended by the insurance center as far as the next step to take to make those savings. The third is probably the best and most logical step for the district, which would be increasing the deductible costs for individuals by $1,000, for the families by $2,000. And as you know, we pay in for the HSA, the health savings account. Currently, we would not increase that amount. So staff would have some obligation to pay in on their own premium, or not on their premiums, on their own deductibles moving forward. So those are the three things that we have got. Again, we've budgeted so we could afford the 109 or any of the three. The 109, the increasing the deductible range is by far the most highly recommended by the insurance company. But again, I would like the staff to be able to see all three options and kind of weigh those and see them side by side of why that's the recommendation. And and then give a little feedback, have an opportunity to answer some questions, and then we'll be able to move forward with that. So again, I'm seeking approval of any of the three options that fit into our overall budget planning, and would meet with the staff, talk with them, and then go ahead and start that contract so that we can get everything rolling at the end of the school year. They will sign up for their new plan, or their plan changes at our staff meeting at the end of the school year. So having that all in place before that is kind of important. So if you approve the amount tonight, then we'll move forward with that. One of those three plans, likely the third option for the district.
And that's coming back for approval in May.
It would not come back for approval. You're approving the amount tonight, up one of those three. And we would move forward with it, and I'll come back and notify you which one we went with in May.
Okay.
The timeline for the May meeting doesn't give us enough time to get everything set for the enrollment period.
So we're giving approval for any one of the three.
That's what I'm asking for. And again, we've talked about this, the insurance center's recommendation, my recommendation, and what I sense from the board as well, the recommendation is 3, but I want to be able to explain those 3 options to the board or to the staff of why, and why that's the best advantage for us moving forward. So if you only approved 3, I would be perfectly fine with that. But I want to be able to talk about why with staff. But I think giving us that flexibility would be appreciated.
Plus, it's reviewed annually. So
Correct.
what we approve this year, we're only approving for the coming year.
Yep.
So if we approve all 3, then you go by majority after you talk with staff? Or you go with what?
We're just going to get feedback.
Okay.
So it's not going to be necessarily a majority vote type thing. I want them to understand the 3 plans. And I could do that if you just approve 3. We would explain all 3 and why the board chose that. So if you feel better with that, you could make that motion to approve 3. But ultimately, that's the direction that Janice is going to recommend from the insurance center when she meets with staff and explain the why behind that and why that's most beneficial for them and for the district. I know. It's that different guy doing it a different way thing that's throwing you off. I apologize.
I'll make a motion to approve any of the 3 presented insurance plans for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Lisa to approve any of the 3 presented insurance plan changes for the 2022-2023 school year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let these guys talk a little bit about their building budgets and we'll seek approval for those.
It's a paper copy. You can see on the building budget, probably on the elementary side of it, pretty much everything stayed very similar to last year. I did take out the kindergarten position and the first grade position as it was prior to this meeting. It would probably be about $1,000 going back in with that third grade position, or kindergarten position. The 2 pieces that maybe just you have a question about is under column $450 resale. Those two numbers are just $350. Those actually get reimbursed. The reason they're expenditures by the district, but parents pay that back. So that's why it's in that. I just thought it was something to every Simon notebooks. So parents pay that back. But it is an expenditure. The other piece is the speech, kind of to be determined right now. So I just left that yellow as kind of an open thing. Budget this year based on what is down, I think it's a couple $3,000 from last year with those two teachers out. So it's essentially it's a break even. However, one thing we did notice this year is some of the writing tools that the teachers have ordered for years to use, the price of those items is going up. And then the larger class size in third grade too is going up. So just having those numbers is kind of an increase for that particular budget. But other than that, everything pretty much stayed intact. You can see maybe the question on the 432 there, library books. You can see it's a straight 250 all the way down. That's been an ongoing initiative to balance out classroom libraries and continue to have the resources available. And I think, if anything, I've had parents ask me questions about access to books, and it's been encouraging to say that their child has access to appropriate level books, and the parents are now higher. I think through the virtual instruction that we did, the idea of leveled books and how that supports students at their level has become more of a common knowledge by parents. So the dialogue between teachers and parents has gotten to be more clear. And then if we continue to fill gaps with, whoever comes into your room or into your classroom, we use that money to balance out the options for the kids that are in front of us. And sometimes you're low in a letter H or something like that. And we're using that consistently every year to balance it out. So you don't have a different experience let's say you walk into one classroom, you should have a similar materials available in any classroom and should be able to use that. So balancing that out, shifting books from one classroom to another classroom as well, that sort of thing. But I just think it's been something that has, we started off using some grant money for that, and then Angie moved it more into the budget side of things. Because other than that, questions for me? Oh, the library fund on the bottom, the $500 under the general supplies comes out of the building budget, but the rest of it comes out of common school fund. So. Yep.
Sorry, I know this is kind of a strange question, but do we really get that many newspapers?
You mean periodicals?
Yeah, well,
No.
it's listed under newspapers.
Whether it's
Just newspapers aren't really printed that much anymore.
no, it's
Are they like the flyers that go home to the kids that are like newspapers?
yeah, it's not
It's like an
traditional newspaper.
education-
You're
like
not
you-
talking about the Tribune,
No.
the Journal.
No, it's like
Okay,
a
No.
news-
that's just to me. I was like,
It's like a
really?
kid
People read
paper.
hard copy?
No, no.
Okay.
It's
Well,
yeah.
okay.
It's not like it. No, it's second graders reading.
I believe there are usually magazines. You probably
There are,
have
yeah.
some
There's different.
Sports Illustrated for
They
kids.
fall into that
those
category, I guess,
types
more
of-
than anything. It's not New York Times, which would be cool. But yeah, no, it's.
The middle high school budget, as you can see, is down about $4,500. $4,000 of that was recoded by Angie. That was a district level expense that the elementary was having as a district expense, and she wanted to put those in the same area. And then our textbooks are actually up. Our subscriptions are usually 5-year subscriptions now. They're digital. Those really fluctuate each year. You can see that's up by about $4,000. And I did cut some out of my budget, some things that Don had in there that I wasn't using, so I cut those out of there. And then also some of our dues are back up, or for some of our conferences. Now that COVID is, I don't want to say it's done, but people are attending those a little bit more, so those numbers are up a little bit. But overall, the budget's down. Our numbers have finally stabilized a little bit. We were going up in enrollment every year for the last 6 years. So we're losing 54 seniors, bringing in 42 sixth graders. So we're kind of balancing that out finally, because last year we went up by 30 up here with the people that came in open enrollment and then with the class moving up. So our budget's pretty similar, and I asked the staff to keep it similar, or if not, definitely have a more detailed explanation. So if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those. And we do have newspapers in our library up here. Ag Review and some other, some ag ones as well. So we would be seeking approval of those building budgets. I would add, do you like seeing them in that detail? I have never been in a district where those have been approved at the board level at that detail. I'm perfectly fine if that's how you want to move forward. If not, we can simplify that for next year for you. I was just curious on that.
I kind of like it.
Okay. You guys like your information. I get it. Just ask it.
I'll move to approve the two building budgets as presented.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley, to approve the 2022-2023 building budgets as presented by Mr. Johnson and Mr. Mullenberg. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. FFA sidewalk construction.
Yeah, so the timing of this is perfect. So as we know, we committed when we acquired the lot across the street from the softball diamond for FFA, we needed to put a sidewalk on that lot. And I actually got an email from the village today reminding us that we had committed to that. And I said, well, it's funny, that's on our agenda for tonight with an action item for those bids. So we do have, we attempted to get 3 bids. I know that Performance Concrete is incredibly busy right now, and we have been lucky to get some bids from them in the past, and we look forward to trying to work with them in the future. But they did not present a bid for us for this. So Fowler and Hammer is the company who did the sidewalk extension last fall to get us out to 10th Street. We were very happy with them. They came in again as the low bid here. This was something we had budgeted to do this year, and that actually came in a little bit under what we budgeted. So this is a win and a win, and I got to tell the village that we were moving forward to this. So my recommendation for the board is to move forward with the Fowler and Hammer sidewalk project at the new lot.
In your written notes there, recommended action, you have them at 10,980. You kind of took the 10 and then mark it's 980. Is Fowler 10,485? Is that
10,485? Yes, I'm sorry. That's funny. I can change it. 10,485. It'll be correct in the online.
And this sidewalk is going straight to the road. It's not turning and going the whole lot, correct?
Correct.
It's only to the road.
Yeah, it is
that
not on
comes
10th
across.
Street.
And so then on the end of that, is that a total, how are they going to stop that? Is it going to be a,
So if I looked at that,
gonna be
it looks like
wheelchair
there should be a stop
accessible?
sign, but it looks like it's going to go in at like a 45-degree angle from the corner. That's where the cutout is. So it'll go in at a 45-degree angle and then turn and then go up and match the other sidewalk.
the curb is already there?
The curb and
So
the
it's
cut
going
is
to
all
just
there.
be like a wheelchair accessible from
Yep.
the road up and then straight across. So we're meeting all
We are
requirements.
meeting all requirements. Yep. Yep.
I will move to proceed with the Fowler and Hammer bid of 10,485 to complete the capital improvement with sidewalks to the FFA lot, as we so call it, I guess.
I'll second.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Lori, to approve the installation of the new sidewalk on the FFA lot along the Meadowview Street by Fowler and Hammer for a cost of $10,485. $485. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Flooring?
Yeah, the flooring is the next step in the action. As you guys know, for the last few years, I don't know how many years it's been, but last few anyway, we've been replacing a few rooms of flooring at the middle school, high school. We've had very good luck, and we're very happy with the tiles, the carpet tiles that we're putting down. It is a cost-effective option. If one gets stained or ruined or tore or something like that, you can peel one up and replace it, and you keep rolling. This vendor has been outstanding to work with throughout this process. He came in and looked one more time just to make sure his numbers were still accurate, and his numbers are still right in line with the numbers that he gave us a couple years ago when he started the process. So with everything else going up, that's nice that those are staying same. As I had shared with the board, we did go ahead and move forward and committed to the tiles at a lower price, and got those committed to. So this is just the next phase of that project, and again, it was something that we had been planning to do throughout the year. So we'd look for a motion to approve the next round of flooring for the 26,951.
I'll make a motion to approve the next section of flooring for the 26,951.
I'll second.
Motion by Lori, seconded by Lisa, to approve the replacement of flooring in 10 areas of the middle high school by Tri-State Carpets at a cost of $26,951. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, and the digital board purchase is kind of a win. This is one of those areas where we've got a little flexibility in budget. We, at the end of the year, we feel like we can get a little head start on next year as far as the digital boards for the classrooms. Prices have not changed since we put a number of them in this fall, or I guess at Christmas time, over Christmas break they went in. So we're going to be able to take advantage of that same pricing and continue to get another 10 boards, 5 in each building. I did put in that proposal, there had been some money gifted to the district a number of years ago for the library. You guys have been in the library for many a presentation. That projector is an old one. We could use at the same price at the same time. We could add the 11th that comes not out of the district funds, but out of that donated money for the library. And I think we'll probably move forward with that if we're already ordering 10 more. So this would be approval to purchase 10 new line boards at a cost of $20,690.
Is this the same brand that we just purchased? So we are familiar with this product.
Yeah.
Okay.
And have been very happy with it.
Good. Okay.
Say the cost, because the bid I'm looking at was not what you just,
They're $2,069 a piece.
okay.
Times
So there,
10.
yeah,
Got
we,
it.
But
yeah,
10 of them.
yeah. So 10 of them at the 2,069.
And these are the same ones we
CDW,
just
right?
purchased.
CDW.
So I kind of I brought forward the same proposal that I had brought to you the first time. So I showed you the different pricing, and just we confirmed that the pricing had not changed.
And these funds are coming out of our regular funds, but not out of ESSER.
Correct. End of year budget. Yep. Little bit of surplus.
I'll make a motion to, wrong one. Make a motion to approve the purchase of the 10 new line digital displays from CDWG at a cost of $20,690.
Second.
Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Joni, to approve the purchase of 10 new line digital displays from CDWG at the cost of $20,690. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Did that cover the one you talked about for the library also, or is that different?
Yeah, we'll just purchase that, but it's not coming out of the general budget. We'll just purchase it out of that donated money. I just wanted you to be aware of that. So, all right. The policy revisions that we talked about a little earlier ago with the PRC. There was quite a list of these. The one that Tina brought to my attention, I think is worth looking at, and it's not actually in the revisions. If we looked at the vacancies for the board, in policy 142.5, she had brought to me in the vacancies the different criteria that when a position is deemed vacant. And on line H of that, and it's not in there, I apologize, but it's talking about the incumbent moving his or her residence out of the district and or their representative area. And what we talked about, and I just chatted with Joni a little bit, is about removing the and or representative area. Because you were all elected by the entire community, you could serve out the rest of your term on the board. And the next time you obviously wouldn't qualify to run for that same area. But to me, it makes sense. Especially, I think leaving the consistency on the board. If you create a vacancy, you could run for it, but that's a whole lot of rigmarole that doesn't need to happen. So I would advocate that we would strike and or the representative area and let people continue their 3-year term or finish out their 3-year term, and then they would have to decide if they're going to run for a different spot.
Especially considering we've revamped and added more at large. I mean, it really doesn't, it only would apply to the north, south, and the villages. But we would want them to be able to continue their term, even if they, moved 2.5 years into the term, so.
And even with past practice, we allowed that
Right.
before happen.
I
and
was one of them. When I
Yep.
moved from Rockland to Bangor,
You just couldn't
I
run.
finished
Yep.
out my term.
Yeah. It's there. So it's a good catch on Tina's part, and I think it makes sense to strike that. So with that change, I would move forward with the policy updates and revisions. That does have in one fell swoop here. It does have that one first reading that includes the guidelines for applying the same thing that is applied to everyone else to administrators. So that's a good thing. I will note, just because it will affect our next board meeting, that in the open enrollment section, if you we had an open enrollment application that came through the day after our last board meeting. And that student was approved and has started, and you are going to technically approve it in the consent agenda tonight without knowing the name or the student or anything. You're just approving it. So most districts have moved to the district administrator approves those open enrollments. And what we talked about is the importance of is if there's ever extenuating circumstances such as expulsion from a different district, the board would be involved in that point at that point in time. But the simple ones that we're going to start anyway, so they can begin in our district instead of waiting a month till the next meeting or having a special meeting, would just be approved by me. So I want you to know that, because then that line won't be on the meeting agendas moving forward. I think one of the other things that's worth noting is we kind of cleaned up statutorily how we're required to post a meeting versus, as far as the locations. We don't intend to change, but we are over compliant with how to post a meeting, and we will continue to be. If we were to ever have one that we had to put together real fast, we have a little bit of leeway to make sure we can still get it out. So I think that's the moral of that story. To be legal, we're in line with legal compliance and policy. We'll continue to be over compliant, if you will, with our practice moving forward. So yeah, that was it was a lot of legal, but I think we would look for a motion to approve those changes and the first reading of that one all in one fell swoop, and I'll bring that one back in May for the second reading.
I just feel like if you're elected, I think you can hold your seat. I think that's important. It says, if you move districts or you move out of the district, then I think that you lose your seat. But we're not elected by our district or our location. So I think if you're elected, it's important. The other question that I had on the policy was, there was one on here regarding officers and setting a date. Typically, I think we do that at our May meeting. We're going to do that and not set a special meeting, correct? I'm assuming?
Correct.
Okay.
The realignment or the reorganization meeting will be next month, correct? That's,
Correct.
I think I was at that one last year.
If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the aforementioned revisions and the first reading of
I forget which one it is.
policy 1421.5. No, it's, the new one is 1421,
I'll second that.
which is criminal history.
Motion made by Joni, seconded by Shelley to approve the policy updates, the revision that we discussed, outlined in Neola Volume 31 and number 1, including the first reading of policy 1421.
Thank you for cleaning up that motion for me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, on to administrative reports. Mr. Chaplin.
Thanks, Julie. First thing on there is Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. That was April 6th. We have a lot of great paraprofessionals working in our district. Most of them are in special ed, but there are a couple that aren't. And I'd like to make sure we thank them for all the things that they do for our students, as well as helping out our teachers as well. Along with that, next Wednesday, I think, is the 27th. That's Administrative Assistant Appreciation Day. I know I can't do all the things that get done without Jean especially, but without Melanie and Terry and Jody as well. So I'd like to thank them for all that they do. And then the special education outing, we haven't had this for a couple years because of COVID and things, but we are returning to taking our special education students to the Bangor lanes, and that is this Friday. So hopefully looking forward to that. And then the last thing is the state testing. It's hopefully winding down soon. ACT was completed. The Forward and Aspire tests, there's only a few makeups to do, and that should be done. The elementary still has a few sessions left, but is winding down as well. So testing season is closing to the end. There is some early literacy screenings that still will happen at the elementary as well, but it is state required, but not state administered. So that is winding down on all that great state testing.
Any questions for Mr. Chaplin? Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Julie. Just an update on summer school this Friday. Parents will be receiving email links to registration documents for, broke it down. We're working digitally this time around with some Google Forms for registration. Parents will receive by grade level, entering grade level. So if you have an incoming second grader, you'll get a first and second grade option. So you can choose classes that are designed for that grade level. And then if you have a incoming third grader, you will get the 3 through 5 email that has just 3 through 5 options. And we're trying to categorize them that way. Hopefully the digital versions can be very timely, efficient for parents. We've noticed that with some of the recommendations for extra math and literacy supports this summer. We did some of that virtually. Seemed to work well for parents, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, get rid of the paper part of things. But you can just see, that's just an update as well. So registration will be due by the 6th, and then again, summer school changed this year to June 20th till July 8th, and that allows the fair to occur uninterrupted by families. I think that's made a couple people that commented appreciated that. So I think that's a good thing. The second thing would be just a transition to school-wide title services. On page 61 is a green and yellow kind of overview. It's as far as title goes, tomorrow actually I have a meeting at CISA about title, so I'll get some more information about funding and that kind of stuff, I hope. But really moving from targeted, which we're currently targeted, it basically, to summarize it, is we identify students who are in need of literacy support. We contact their parents, they complete a form, signature, our reading specialists work with them in a pull-out manner. in their small groups, 3 kids, whatever, that we work with, depending on the kids at that level. And with a school-wide program, all students would fall under the title category. All students could get serviced by all staff. And we think that creates an incredible amount of flexibility for a lot of reasons. We can be more reactive to more timely to our interventions with kids. We can do a little bit more collaboration within the classroom with our reading specialists, getting in and working with an entire group or team teaching at times. It allows for us to do that. Probably the biggest, I guess, challenge to this, if there is such a thing, is our para support would have to be, let's say, certified para support. So I already talked, anybody that does not have, let's say, an associate degree or a bachelor's degree would have to take a training this summer. And I already spoke to all people that pertains to, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm encouraged by their professionalism and desire. But really, it's a good move for us. It doesn't change the funding or anything like that. But all resources, all needs, we can look at it from a building perspective as opposed to just students who are, let's say, performing below grade level on a screener at the beginning of the year type of thing. So it creates a lot of flexibility for us, and I'm excited about the change. We've been working on the process involving, CISA has been helping us with this, have a team of teachers and parents together to work through this as well. And next week, Thursday, we're going to finalize the application process, which is due on the 1st. We've got a couple drafts through on that already and editing on that. So just getting ready to submit. And then from there, once our proposal is accepted, once our application is accepted May 1st or soon thereafter, then we'll start looking at how we can utilize resources differently, more efficiently to meet kids where their need, when the need occurs. We don't have to go home and get signatures to work with that child. We can simply work with that child. So super excited about it. I appreciate the team of people that have been working on this to make it happen. And certainly the insightfulness of the dialogue that happens. I'm fascinated what it takes to teach children to read at a high level. And we have some of the best right in our building. So just an informational piece more than anything. I'll let you know. I'm positive that the application will go through as predicted. So any questions for me on that?
So we still have title-specific staff, but they don't have to go through the hoops.
They don't have to delay their work with children waiting for a signature from a parent. They can do more push-in into the classroom, still continue their pull-out work that they do to really target kids. A lot of that will appear the same. However, the flexibility to be in the classroom working with all students, let's just say that, teacher understands, does an assessment and establishes, my students as a group are low with this. We can go right to our reading specialists, say, this is what we're struggling with, what strategies. Those teachers can work together, probably easily get those teachers in the same room together at the same time, teaching the same lesson or a collaboration of some, and getting those kids, that angle or that technique that maybe our reading specialist knows better than like the classroom teacher, those types of things. It allows for that holistic. Josh's students fall under that category as well. Currently, they don't. If you're, let's say, identified with an IEP or something, we have more flexibility with those titles and that kind of thing. So it's exciting. It's better for all students in our building, period. That's kind of
That's what it seems like.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you. Mr. Mellenberg?
Thank you, Julie. First up, I have just a brief introduction to standards-based or target-based grading discussion. We, last week, 4K through 12, we had a couple different groups that met and had a consultant kind of go over. I'll back up just a little bit. For the last 7 years, we've been working on our essential learning outcomes, learning targets, and all of that stuff that we've been doing in our PLCs. Kind of the last step on that is aligning that with our grading practices. So we're just starting to look into that. I mean, this process would be a multi-year, just like I mean, it doesn't move fast, but we want to be diligent about it before we would ever change anything. So we just had a preliminary discussion, half a day at the middle high school, and elementary had a half a day there as well with that person. It was somebody that was recommended by the West Salem School District, used them to transition. And so I was able to talk to some of their staff and administration as well. Highly recommended. They like that system. I will definitely, this will be an ongoing process where we continue to look at it and learn, and I'll report back to you. Mike and I will, as next year goes along. Nothing will be instituted next year, if ever. I mean, we're hoping that in a couple of years we can. But I've talked to enough people that have said, don't rush the process if you do it. Take your time, do it right, and things like that. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up now that we'll be talking about it a little bit more. You'll be hearing this as we move forward. So staff was really excited, the ones that were there, to hear a lot of that information, how things are separated out, broken down to the learning targets. There's rubrics for every one of those. So students know it's very distinct what they need to know and how to get there. And then parents know that as well. So what it all looks like, I couldn't tell you right now, but it's some information there. And then secondly, I have a lot of dates there. Our sixth grade with Jean, thank you, Jean, again, taking them across the country to Washington, D.C. Excited for them to be able to go back there again. And as you see, the month of May really ramps up, where we have scholarship banquet, we have high school and middle school concerts, our academic awards night, another professional development day. We have the blood drive here in the school to add another thing on top of that. Then our senior banquet, and then we have finals for our seniors, as you heard the girls say tonight, 25 days of school for them. That includes Friday of graduation practice as well. So when I said that to them, well, we're not going to count that. So anyway, so they were telling me 24. And then we have our graduation practice and graduation. So there's a lot packed in there. I didn't put all the athletics on there. That list would be about 3 times that long. So especially since so many things got moved back. So our kids will be extremely busy again in the month of May. All good things, and we're really proud that we can host those things for the kids.
Any questions for Mr. Millenberg? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brackup?
You betcha. Well, I'd just start by saying, I've been able to sit in on some of the discussions Mike's been having with the title group, and popped in with the consultant last week as the two groups were meeting. And it is amazing to see the professionalism of our staff in that environment, the level of conversations that they're having. And I think just what I have seen throughout the course of this year, the continued use of the PLC process and the focus that our district leaders, that our building leaders are instilling and moving their buildings forward and using that PLC process. I think it's just commendable for the staff and the conversations that they're having, and for the leadership that's continuing to push in the right direction. So thank you to those guys and to the staff for all your work there. I have just a couple of quick updates in my presentation here. Unfortunately, I did not get the clean diesel grant or that we had applied for. There was over $3 million in requests, and there was only $250,000 to give away, and we weren't lucky. So it was worth a shot. I may try again if we offer that again, because anything would help on the $100,000 bus purchase. CISA 4 contract, I did include that. I saw that last year that was just shared with the board as well, so you could see that. In the CISA 4 contract, for the most part, it is identical to what we had this year. The difference would be the social worker is pulled out. As we know, we're creating our own position there. So if you do the math from last year to this year, it actually is, there should be a $40,000 difference. That's not quite $40,000, and that is primarily because some of the contracted services for our OTs and PTs and those those types of things continues to climb a little bit. But other than that, that's really the only change in that CISA contract from years past. So looking forward to continuing that partnership with CISA. And then, just a couple of things coming up. Angie and I have been working with Baird. Some of those projections I gave you earlier with the debt defeasance, paying off some of that debt in advance. We are looking at doing that again for next year. And Kevin will Brian from Baird will be speaking with us probably at our June meeting and getting that approved and moving that forward. So another opportunity to just be good stewards of the dollars that we have and continue to pay that debt down early. I didn't have it on here, but thinking about it throughout the course of the day and this evening, I don't know if you've heard, our fourth grade group is traveling to Des Moines for the world competition of Odyssey of the Mind. Mr. Johnson is going to help remind me to make sure that we get that on the approval for May, because it'll be shortly thereafter for the overnight field trip for those kiddos that to that Odyssey of the Mind trip. So neat opportunity. They went down to Madison. All of the groups did well, but they obviously competed well within their group and get to go to that. And the district is supporting that, but I know they're doing some fundraising for that as well. There's been a lot of effort put into that to make sure those kids can have that experience. So congratulations to that team. And other than that,
Is it Ames, Iowa, or Des Moines?
I think it's Des Moines.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And we'll get you, obviously, you'll approve that next time because it's our kids on an overnight, but we'll keep you posted on that. And I just end by saying, sorry that we had the little bit late start for anybody that was waiting for us at 7:00, but I appreciate the board's patience with me as I kind of lead us through this budget processing for the first time. Hope that the information I provided to you was helpful, and hopefully it gets easier, and we've got a format now that we can speak the same language. So if there's things from tonight that you appreciated or things that you'd like to know more on, please keep me posted between now and the next meeting, and we'll make sure that when we look at some additional action on pay increases and those types of things at the May meeting, that we've got you all the information that you need to feel confident in making those decisions. So again, thank you to the board for bearing with me through this, and been a good process, and feel very good about what we were able to present tonight. So that's it for me. Any other questions?
Thank you. Removal of items from the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are on page 13 and 14. A, B, and C, I believe. None. I ask for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Joni, seconded by Lori, to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So we do not need to go into closed session, so I ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Shelley to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.